Scrappy people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a life crafted album page in my Chicago album. This is actually going to be the intro page to our Chicago trip, and you can see that I created a cut file here that says Chicago with the Chicago skyline, and then I'm going to be using the Cocoa Daisy Wayfarer collection. I've gotten a lot of use out of this collection. It's very versatile, more versatile than I thought it was going to be to begin with, so that makes me super happy. And I'm going to be using photos of the Chicago skylines, the various skyline photos we took on our trip, and this explore piece from Colorcast Designs. So what I want to do is I want to build this layout vertically underneath the skyline to sort of mimic the skyline. So what I'm doing is I'm nesting these photos into various buildings on the skyline that are going to not cover up too much of the photo itself. So I'm just I was experimenting to see where each one would go. I'm pulling out a bunch of the tags and ephemera from the Wayfarer collection, and I just want to build everything vertically above the skyline. I really wanted to incorporate that together, but you can see that you cannot see it, and I could not make it work in any way on this page. Oh well, so I'm going to use the sticker sheets, the memory keeping sticker sheets, actually, the solid pattern blocks for the mats for my photos, because I rarely use these pattern blocks in anything, and I really wanted to sort of stretch myself and use them. And of course they're going to be perfect little pattern blocks for this page, so I'm going to do that for each one of these photos. So I'm going to back it with a pattern block sticker, and then I'm going to stick a piece of ephemera behind each one, and I'm going to do that all the way across the page, and then I can start working my cluster magic. Of course, it takes me a second to get the first one down, but we're just going to move right across. So I've got this one backed, and I'm going to stick it to some ephemera. And that's sort of the base point for each one of these photos all the way across the page. Obviously, a lot of these destinations that are on these tags are not where we are. In fact, there is one that says Chicago on it, and I don't use it because I couldn't make it work on this page and not cover up the Chicago part. So I have lots and lots of Chicago photos, so I'll just incorporate it into a different page somewhere along the line. It just cracked me up that I'd been saving that Chicago tag and I couldn't even use it. So I want to make sure that I'm covering up the destinations on most of these tags so that it doesn't get confusing. Like this one is France. I wasn't in France. Then I'm going to reorient some of these tags because I didn't like how they were all vertical and sort of tilted. So I'm going to make this one horizontal. And I don't want to cover up too much of the photo next to it, but I do want to have some overlapping vibes going on. So that's kind of where I'm started. I'm like looking at this going, what do I do with this? So I'm just gonna layer the ephemera. I realize that the background is very busy, but I feel like the way that this ends up going is it brings the ephemera from the foreground or the background into the foreground and sort of ties the whole composition together with the background, because the cut file that I made was, obviously cut on white paper, so it really stands out from this really beautiful multicolored background. So I wanted to make sure that it all kind of meshed well together and it didn't just look like, this Chicago cut file stuck to this really busy paper. So I'm incorporating some ephemera on top of my photos and underneath to sort of bring the background into the foreground and make sure that everything just sort of looks like it belongs there. So I want to use this explore, but I didn't want to cover up too much of the skyline, and then I decided that the part that I was covering up, if I put it there, is just all nothing. So as long as I get low enough that most of the tops of the buildings, which are the parts that you can really delineate from each other, as long as most of those are showing, we'll be good. So I'm just going to make sure that I get this as low as possible, and then I'm going to move on. Now that I've got the base of the layout put down, I can start gluing down the actual cut file. So I'm going to glue down each of these letters with liquid glue. so that they are all nicely stuck before I cut the layout apart. And then I want to incorporate some rub-ons, and I think that that will help bring the foreground or the background into the foreground, like what I've been saying, because I'm going to overlap the photos and the ephemera and the background with these with these rub-ons. Man, my brain farted. Okay, so I wanted to use this wanderlust, but it was too long, so I'm just going to cut off the lust part and make it wander, and then I'm going to put it right here so it's overlapping a bunch of things, and you can see how that starts to bring everything together in one sort of cohesive composition. And I like the addition of black as well to the layout that's so colorful. So I'm going to add this black label as well. I felt like I wanted to have just a little bit of different pattern in the background, so I added that one strip of washi tape, and then I add another one as well. At first I put it over the label, but then I didn't like it, so I pull up the label and put the washi tape behind it instead. And that's where I'm going to add my date to the page, and I'm going to do messy stamping like I always do. And I've got my Cocoa Daisy stamp out, and the way I'm going to do this is I want to have like a date range because we were there for 3 days. So I'm just going to ink up the one date, and then I'm going to change it and ink up the whole stamp, and then I'll just hand draw a dash between the 2 dates after I make it super messy. I don't know why I like that look so much, but it actually really works for this page specifically too, because everything's kind of overlappy and messy on this page. So I tried to make that together work one more time. It was not going to work, so instead I'm just going to extend this label vertically downward a little bit. I felt like that would add a little bit of balance to the page, because I felt like because everything was above that skyline, it felt a little top heavy. So instead I'm going to add a little bit to the bottom of the page so that it just sort of evens everything out. Just adding a few more bits of ephemera, and then I'm going to add one more rub-on over the top of all of that to add to the messiness and just sort of fit the vibe. So that is it. I'm sorry if you can hear my puppy, but that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There is a link to Cocoa Daisy in the description box below, and a link to Colorcraft Designs. All right, thank you.